My name is Tom Thanis. I'm an attorney licensed to practice law in the state of Florida. I've been appointed by the City of St. Pete Beach to serve as the Special Magistrate for Code Enforcement hearings. I'm not an employee of the city. I'm an independent attorney. I do not confer with the city's code enforcement officers outside of the hearing process about your cases. Your hearing will be conducted in accordance with Florida law and the Code of Ordinances of the city. The burden of proof is on the city. You have the right to respond to the city's case. The formal rules of evidence do not apply to today's cases. Everyone will have an opportunity to testify and present any evidence, including photographs and records. Anyone who will be testifying today will be required to testify under oath. I reserve the right to decide if anything to which you're testifying or any evidence you're presenting is beyond the scope of relevance to your case. My goal is to make sure that I conduct a fair hearing during which everyone is given a chance to present everything you think I need to hear and decide your case. At the end of the case, I will most likely announce my decision. A written decision will follow and it will be emailed to you. Please understand that I do not have the authority to grant variances or give you permission to do something that the code does not allow you to do. I'll try to be clear and concise in making my decision. If something about my decision is confusing or unclear, please ask me to clarify it. If I find that you violated the code, I will most likely order you to bring your property into full compliance within a specific number of days. I also have the legal authority to impose a fine and also administrative costs incurred by the city in pursuing the case. If you fail to pay the fine by the deadline, the city will most likely file a lien against your property, which will cloud title to your property and jeopardize your ability to sell it. Now, I'll ask the city code enforcement officer to present the case first. When I call your case, please come to the podium, identify yourself, and let me know whether you're the owner of the property or related to the property in some other capacity. After the code enforcement officer presents the city's case, you'll have an opportunity to respond, present any information you would like for me to hear or review, and you may also ask the code enforcement officer questions. At the conclusion of the hearing, I'll announce my decision. You may appeal my decision to the circuit court. Any person who wants to appeal my decision will need a record of the proceedings, which will include a verbatim record of the testimony and the evidence upon which the appeal is based. Please understand the goal of these hearings is not to punish you, but to get compliance with if the city is correct in its assessment of your property. The hearing is being video recorded, so you'll need to speak into the microphone at the podium. I'll now ask everyone who will be testifying today to stand and raise your right hand and be sworn in. Do you swear or affirm under oath that the testimony you'll be giving today is the truth? Yes. And I'll show for the record everyone in the audience stood today. And we'll start by calling the first case. Mr. Dewar.
Good afternoon, Mr. Special Magistrate Pete Dewar, Code Enforcement Manager for the City of St. Pete Beach. Case 2023-0311, which is on the new cases 4C.
Yes.
We're going to request an order of continuance. And that's the only change to the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just to clarify, that's based on a request of a property owner. She had something come up today.
Okay. And are we continuing it to the next month?
Yes.
October
9th
at 10 a.m.
Yes,
Correct.
sir.
Okay. Very good. I'll get an order issued.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we have a few people in the audience who have cases, so unless you have anything else I need to hear immediately, I'll start with the new cases. New case is the first one, case number 2023-0456, City of St. Pete Beach versus Katrina Barashaj, 3350 East Maritana Drive.
Your Honor, was that 5-6 or 6-5?
456.
456.
Where's the typo? Is it under an page So the typo is on the agenda. So please correct that.
All right, just so we're clear, Mr. Dewar, Mr. Rivera, the typo's on the agenda, so that should be 465?
Correct.
That's what all the documents show?
Correct.
Okay. All right, I'll make that change on the agenda, and we'll show that Ms. Bershaj is present in the audience. She'll have a chance to speak. Mr. Rivera, go ahead and present the city's case.
Good afternoon, Special Magistrate Stephen Rivera on behalf of the City of St. Pete Beach. Case number 20230456, what was it?
6-5.
5, that's the right one, right? Katrina Barashaw, violation address 3350 East Maritana Drive. Violation description, the property is in violation of section 23.11A1, 2, 3, 4, and 23.2D of the Land Development Code of the City of St. Pete Beach. Case summary, initial inspection was 8/9/2023, notice of violation 8/15/2023. Notice of violation compliance was 8/19 of 2023. Notice of hearing dated and posted to the property 8/22 of 2023. Following is a true and accurate representation of what I witnessed. This is the affidavit of posting. This is the commercial vehicle parked on unapproved surface. It's another picture of the truck parked on the unapproved surface, unapproved surface. Here's again. Corrective action, the parking area that was used for parking of the food truck is not an approved surface. The overnight parking or storing of the food truck / commercial vehicle is prohibited in the residential areas. Property is compliant, recommended fine, administrative costs only. Now, this is a reoccurrence, I'd like to submit into evidence previous violation notice. This was back in January of this year. Officer Cruz was the original officer that did the investigation on that. And we have an email that went back and forth with Mr. Cruz and the respondent. Basically letting her know that as long as the food truck didn't come back, that they'd be in compliance.
Okay.
The property is in compliance now. And I just recommend an administrative cost. That concludes my presentation.
All right. And Ms. Bershaj.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
I would like to start by responding to Mr. Rivera.
You mind stating your name for the record?
Sure. Katrina Barashai.
Thank you.
Mr. Rivera had stated that Code Section 23.2 prohibits commercial vehicles from being parked. And the copy of the code section in the notice of hearing, is that the right way? Sorry. Okay, here we go. Actually specifies that commercial vehicles are prohibited from being parked overnight. Not being parked there, period, but overnight. So, this notice of violation also gives a compliance date of 8/19.
Yeah, go ahead
Sorry.
and flip that one more time. Thank you.
8/19/2023. In point of fact, the property was in compliance before the close of business, and I have photos here that I'll put up for you. You can see the times, the date and the timestamp here, August 18, 2023, 4:59 p.m. And then I have other photos as well. also in the notice of violation, an allegation that there was pavers stored in front of the garage door which need to be removed. That was also, as these pictures show, remediated before the compliance date.
Okay,
Not only that, I would also like to ask Mr. Rivera a few questions, if I
sure.
may.
All right, Mr. Rivera, come on up.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
what are your working hours generally?
Generally, we work from 8 to 6:30 PM.
Hold on, I've sort of now mixed them up here. Yep, sure. 8 to 6:30 PM. Would you consider that overnight?
No.
You would not?
No.
Okay. I just want to clarify as well and introduce this into evidence. I think I can rest my case there, but I do want to say this. The food truck's hours of operation are 8 p.m. Thursday to Sunday, 8 p.m. to 3 a.m. It's in service, not at the residence. Anyone that's been in the service industry knows that you don't pack up and leave. You clean up. It's a food truck, yeah? You've got to drive back to the...
Can you please step to the microphone if you don't mind, ma'am?
Sure. Yeah, anyone who has been in the service industry knows that you don't just pick up and leave at the end of your shift. You clean up. It's a food truck. You have to drive back to wherever you're going. In this case, it may be the residence, it may not. But that takes time. Mr. Rivera, I think what you have admitted is you don't work overnight. I don't know how you can allege that there's a violation taking place overnight when you cannot substantiate it. Your Honor, I have nothing further.
All right. Mr. McConnell, do you have anything for
If you
Ms.
can put
Barashaj?
that business hour exhibit back on, please. Are you the owner of the food truck?
I am not. No,
But you own the residence, correct?
I do.
Okay. So then, based on the initial notice of violation that happened in January, if you could, what occurred there? So you removed the food truck in January when you got the notice of violation?
That's right.
And why did you move that? Did you believe you were in violation, or?
I moved it to comply with Mr. Cruz's letter.
So you admitted to the violation and
No, I did
removed?
not. No, the case, I've actually never made it here.
Well, and Mr. Magistrate, the reason why, if you could leave that up for a minute, please. The reason why I never made it is because they came into compliance prior to the compliance date, right? So the city doesn't take to hearing cases that come into compliance. However, what about Monday through Wednesday? Because you mentioned Thursday through Sunday is the operating hours from 8 to 3 a.m., but Monday through Wednesday they're closed. So where's the food truck those days?
Not at the residence.
So then on Thursday, they pack up, let's say it's 4 or 5 a.m. Where do they bring the food truck? They bring it back to the,
Yep,
they bring it back to the residence?
they do. Parked on the street with a permit. Maybe. On occasion, they do that.
So you do have a permit?
I do. Yep, and I have a photo of the permit right there with the timestamp to show that I obtained the permit, at least prior to the compliance date.
So that, you realize that's a residential parking permit, correct?
Is that for a residential car or in the residential area?
I guess the point I'm trying to make, Mr. Magistrate, is that's a permit that residents get in certain zoning districts to allow for street parking, but our code is clear that commercial vehicles are not allowed to be parked in
Overnight.
those areas.
Overnight.
So essentially what we're having here is a reoccurrence, right? So, and if I may, I'd like to understand the business aspect here. So take me through a day, if you don't mind, of, let's say, Thursday. So
What's the relevance?
the relevance is I'm trying to understand where the food truck goes and where it is on a regular basis.
That's on you to prove. I don't have to answer those questions.
Well, actually, I'll take that as an objection. I'll overrule the objection. I'll allow Mr. McConnell's question to stand. He's asking, where does the food truck go? And are you specifying on Thursdays, or is this just?
Well, the hours of operation on Thursday, so I'm just asking a very simple question. Take me through the daily business. So you leave at 7, food truck goes where, is there till 4, comes back where? I'm just trying to understand where the food truck goes and comes.
Yeah, so the food truck generally will leave 7 o'clock, will go do its business, whether it's at a private event or otherwise, and then will occasionally come back and park in the street with a valid parking permit.
At what time? 4 or 5 a.m.?
5, 6,
And it's your position that that's not overnight because
That's
of
right.
why? Because it doesn't start at 11 and go till 12, or what is your reasoning behind that?
Mr. Rivera said that he works, 8:30?
I guess the code enforcement's point, the point I'm trying to make is if code
I
enforcement.
may finish.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Rivera said that his hours of operation or hours of work are 8:30. 8:30? 8 to 6:30. He said that's not overnight. I am then assuming that overnight reasonably is probably what? 7 to 6 o'clock in the morning when people start their day?
Okay, and I think the point I'm trying to make, which is why I wanted the business hours, is if Mr. Rivera leaves at 6:30, the food truck doesn't leave till 7, right? So if he drove by the property, it would be there. The food truck gets back at 5 a.m., Mr. Rivera starts at 8 in the morning. If he drove by there the next day, the food truck would be there.
Is there a definition of overnight in the code?
I don't know if there is, and we could look. I guess I need to understand, and Mr. Dewar, you have a possible definition of the word overnight?
Is the code book there?
Mm-mm.
There's a code book over there in the corner.
Also, is it Mr. Dickman?
Mr. McConnell. is
Mr.
the-
McConnell, my apologies.
No worries.
I'm sorry?
I said no worries.
Is it your position that Mr. Rivera off the clock can enforce the code? Is that what you're implying?
I don't see a need to answer
Yeah,
that.
I'm going to, yeah, this is not necessarily cross-examination of Mr. McConnell, but I don't think that the testimony of Mr. Rivera about his hours, standard hours, I don't think that would preclude him from, on his own time or on overtime or whatever time he uses, to be able to go and inspect something outside of ordinary business hours. I don't think the city has established that the vehicle was parked there, if we use the term overnight as meaning one continuous night from, and again, when does night begin? I will assume night begins when we have an official sunset, okay? This is the sunset capital of the world, I believe, so we can probably find out when the sun sat here. That would probably be a reasonable interpretation of overnight. In this case, it sounds like we have a vehicle that's departing right around 7 p.m., 4 out of 7 nights a week. And then it's returning around 4 or 5 a.m. the following morning, possibly. And sometimes it may be parked in this area, sometimes it may not be parked in the area. And I don't think we've established what happens to the vehicle those 3 nights that the food truck is not operational. I don't think I've heard any evidence about what's happening, where it's located then.
It's not at the residence.
Okay, other than okay, you've told me that, that's fine. Mr. Dewar has his hand up, so I'm going to let him have the podium for a second. So,
I think if we go back to the presentation, the property is in violation of sections 2311, A1, 2, 3, 4. We have segued into just focusing on 23.2. No objection to doing that, but 2311, if you, Mr. Special Magistrate, remember the pictures that were provided. The vehicle is being parked on surface that has not been constructed of these materials, right?
yeah, and that's on my note of things to ask, because I think we would treat this as having 2 issues. One deals with the parking surface on which the vehicle is being parked, irrespective of what time of day it is.
You got it, sir.
And then part 2 is the overnight issue of the vehicle. And I can certainly see Ms. Bereshad's argument about the vehicle not meeting the strict definition of overnight unless we have a better definition someplace in the code. And I don't think I'm ready to rule that the vehicle must be parked there 100% of the time from sunset to sunrise. I don't know if that is a good definition yet of overnight.
I think part of the answer to the question where the vehicle goes, it ends up at Mermaids, is where I have observed it doing business.
Okay, and that's in town? That's here in St. Pete Beach? Okay, all right. All right. Ms. Baruchel, let's focus on the surface part of it, because that was the first item that I looked at,
Yeah.
and it looks like it's some kind of crushed stone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't have the pictures now anymore to present to you, but as of the compliance date, 8/19,
Yes.
it doesn't park there. It's never parked there anymore. I have a valid parking permit.
Okay. Prior to 8/19, though, it was parked on a surface that didn't necessarily meet the requirements of Section 23.11. So, and again, I don't think it's either crushed stone or crushed
It's limestone.
shells, limestone, something, okay.
Limestone.
So, and I think the way I've had several of these cases before, because it's fairly common practice in Florida for people not to park on driveways. They have stuff parked on lawns, they have stuff parked on crushed stone, and in St. Pete Beach, there is a requirement for a hard surface of some sort, whether it's concrete, blacktop, pavers, take your pick. So that tells me that if it was parked there prior to the compliance date, it would have been in violation of 23.11.
Yes.
So that would be something that I'll ask you to answer to if you want to add anything, because that's my conclusion right now, that there is a violation
Okay.
of the code dealing with 23.11 as far as parking a vehicle on a surface that does not meet the requirements of the ordinance.
Yes, Your Honor, to your point, there are a number of homes in my neighborhood that actually do not have a paved driveway. It's literally just rocks. So I totally understand and agree. I guess my question is, there's a compliance date here, and if I'm in compliance by this date, right, 8/19/2023, what?
So the compliance date, and again, I'll defer to the city attorney for an argument on this, but if an inspector sees a violation, and let's just use August 15th as the date, and that is the violation right there. You have a compliance order, a compliance date by which you have to comply to avoid going through this.
Yes.
Right, or going through whatever issue that may happen afterwards. In this particular case, you were given the date, it sounds like you got the notice and you complied immediately. Okay. That doesn't mean that there wasn't a violation preceding that particular compliance date, though. So that's why I am in a position where I can find you in violation of 23.11 based on the surface issue.
Sure.
Okay. So that's where I'm headed with this right now. As far as the overnight issue, unless anybody has anything else to add on the overnight issue?
I'd also, if I may,
Go ahead.
there were code sections that Mr. Dewar mentioned that are not in this notice of violation at all. I can get the,
Yeah, I'm only going to rule on what's in the notice of violation. So I'm not going to rule on anything. If he did raise other issues,
I guess I'm curious to know which ones, because he held up 23.11, so.
yeah, and
Mr.
he,
Dewar, yeah.
I believe he may have mentioned a few others. Or no, that's, okay.
If he did, yeah, I think he wanted me to make sure that I was aware that there was a second. And when I read this the other day, because I usually go through the agenda just to see what's coming my way so I can be familiar with the code, 23.11 I've seen several times. So, and as you mentioned, it's a violation that frequently occurs not only in the city of St. Pete Beach, but from my experience of observing other communities, especially coastal communities, it happens frequently.
Sure.
Okay. I have relatives who do it, so I tell them don't do it, but they do it anyway. So I just wanted to make sure that we weren't lost on this overnight issue solely, that there was a second count here that I needed to deal with.
Sure. Is it all, I just have a question.
Go ahead.
Is it safe for me to assume that the issue about the pavers is resolved?
Yes.
Okay. I also want to add,
Not parking on that, or did you replace that with pavers now?
no, there were pavers in my driveway that the city actually moved when Duke ran a power pole through the city's
I see,
sewer
I see.
line.
Oh, these
They
are
moved-
pavers that were, okay,
They moved the
stacked
pavers,
someplace.
yes.
So they could take
and
care of
never
some
moved them back.
unrelated project, okay.
Yeah.
All right. That is an issue that is not before me, so I'm going to let that one just sit off to the side, and I won't base my decision on that.
We can get an interpretation of overnight. Brandon is out of the way. The city
Okay,
planner.
all right. And while we have a couple of minutes here, let me ask, prospectively, is the truck being parked on the property currently? In other words, whether it's day or night, it's not being parked on the
No,
unpaved.
on the gravel, no, on the limestone,
So
no.
we're done with that issue. Is there another location on the property that the truck is being parked?
No.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, sir. Come on up to the podium. First thing I'm going to do is swear you in. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes.
And if you could identify yourself, please, and your position with the city.
I'm Brandon Berry, Senior Planner with the city.
Okay. And I think you got called into duty by the city staff to help with the interpretation of Section 23.2.
Correct. I mean, for that standard, any kind of overnight parking that's typically between the hours of 10 and 7 in our code is prohibited on residential property.
Okay. And the 10 o'clock to 7 o'clock, where is that in the code?
It's variously defined in the code. We use it for example, that's our hours, our quiet hours in the city. It's just a typical range of time I use when there's no other definition.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Similar to our park hours too,
Got it.
and our boat ramps.
Ms. Barashaj, questions for the planner? Sir, you'll have to stay here.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, this is the respondent. The respondent also happens to be an attorney, so she's going to ask you some questions. So you're still under oath, so you have to answer the questions. If there's an objection, Mr. McConnell will assert the objection.
so overnight in section 23.2 is not defined. You indicated that you use, 10 to 7?
Correct.
Is that in anywhere referenced in the code, and how would the general public know that that's the definition of overnight that's being used for purposes of section 23.2?
I'm not sure if it's defined in the land development code specifically. That's, I guess, the standard I would defer to if the word overnight were used, just in line with other standards that we have in the city's code.
I can answer that in part too.
Mr. McConnell.
Chapter 82, in which the respondent's decal is issued, right? Because we have a parking ordinance in which certain decals for certain residences are issued based on the zoning district that you're in, actually calls for overnight hours being between 12 midnight and 6 a.m.
I'm sorry, what was that?
12 midnight and 6 a.m.
12 midnight and 6 a.m.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Okay. Thank you very much, sir. All right. Ms. Barashaj, anything else in closing?
Yes, I mean, I would just like to add that this notice of violation, the city brought up the prior notice of violation. Nowhere in there, in this 815 notice of violation, is that prior violation mentioned. And if this violation is any way related to the prior violation, then including the pavers in this 815 notice, is a violation of my due process rights if you're trying to tack on a new violation to an old violation.
Okay. Mr. McConnell, anything else?
No. I still don't understand where the car goes Monday through Wednesday, but if it's not relevant to you, then
It's not at the premises.
Okay, and that's what I'm hearing. So, all right, based on the evidence that's been submitted, we have the city acknowledging that the property is now in compliance following the notice of compliance that had been previously issued. So we don't have a current violation that we're dealing with. The city's recommendation was for the imposition of no fines, but just the payment of administrative fees that are recoverable under the city code. and that's done through an invoice system that the city manages, not the special magistrate. Based on the evidence that's been submitted to me, I will find that the respondent is in violation of Section 23.11, dealing with the composition of the driveway, and that it does not meet the requirements of 23.11 subsection A1, in that it's not constructed of concrete, concrete pavers, blacktop, or other hard-surfaced composition. So I'll find that to be in violation. Regarding the violation of 23.2, I'm not going to define what is overnight. I will find in favor of the respondent, though, because there was no direct testimony regarding any presence of the vehicle overnight. I know I was asked to infer that it was parked there overnight, but I believe there was enough testimony from the respondent to indicate that the vehicle left the premises for a period of time, 4 out of 7 nights of the week, and then the other 3 that the vehicle was not parked there. So, as far as what my order will read, I'll find that there's no violation of 23.2, but I'm not relying on any particular interpretation of overnight. It's just that there was no direct evidence of the vehicle being there during nighttime hours, without me inferring that it was. So based on that, I will find in favor of the city on 23.11, impose no fines, and grant the city's request for the payment of administrative fees. You'll get an invoice for that.
Great. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
The section that you referenced, I think it was 82. What were those hours again?
Yeah, I would take a
Midnight?
look at 82-135 because it's just in full transparency. If it's parked on the right of way, then you can anticipate a new NOV.
On what basis?
All right.
82-135. Just
82.
Yeah, I'll
full
let the two of you have a conversation. And further, let me do some further clarifications here. There was an email that was displayed during the hearing dated January 18th, 2023, regarding an alleged previous violation of the same code provision, and I'm going to indicate for the record that I did not take that into account. Has no precedential value as far as finding you to be a repeat violator, nor am I using it to make my decision today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. McConnell, you said I can expect a notice of violation?
we can talk offline.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's what I heard, though. Sure.
And the other thing, Ms. Barashaj, if you could leave your email address if you haven't left it yet on the notice, so I can email my decision to you. It should come out in the next 2 days.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Dewar and Mr. McConnell, we have some folks, and still have some folks in the audience. I don't know if you know what cases those are. Maybe we could take care of those first.
Is someone here for Workman?
All right, that's case number 2023-0252. Thomas D. Workman Jr. and Frederick C. Whisker. That is at 316 76th Avenue. And Mr. Cruz.
Good afternoon, Special Magistrate. I am Louis Cruz, representing the City of St. Pete Beach Code Enforcement. And we are on here. That is 2023-0252, case number. The respondent is Thomas D. Workman Jr. and Frederick C. Whisker. Violation address is 31676. Violation description: the property is in violation of sections 9867A, E, G, 9866A, B, 5, 7, and 4633, 4B, and 13 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of St. Pete Beach. Case summary: initial inspection is 4/19/2023. Notice of violation dated 5/3/2023. Notice of violation compliance date 5/17/2023. Notices of hearing dated and posted on the property was 8/8/2023. And these are a true and accurate representation of what I have witnessed. This is the affidavit of posted. This is at 31676, and that is August 8th, 2023. As you can see here, there's many dead palm fronds in the palm trees there that were witnessed. Dead palm fronds strewn on property at 316 76th Avenue. Accumulation of broken fence slats that are leaned up against the fence, along with debris in the yard. This is a junk and inoperable vehicle. Just a couple different views showing that there is no license plate attached. There's a missing / broken door and peeling paint. And this is a Google view of there, and this is a Google image. It is for March 2016 that there was an existing door there, but there is not at this current time during my pictures shown previously. And this is voluntary compliance of dead palm fronds and debris off of the yard. He worked very diligently and cleaned up the trees, cleaned up the yard. Just want to show you a couple different pictures there. He was making progress. Another updated photo. This was August 8th during my posting. I took another picture of the RV showing that there still is no license plate attached. Corrective action. The RV must be registered or removed. Broken fence slats must be removed. Front enclosure must be painted and a door installed with the proper permit. Also, continue maintaining the palm fronds and debris so that they may not accumulate in the front yard. The property is not compliant, but I will show pictures that it is compliant now. Recommended fine, which, because he still was in violation for quite some time, the recommended fine was $250 per day from 9/11/2023 until compliant, plus administrative costs. And Ryan, if you put the overhead on for me, please. These are new updated photos that the door was put on properly. It did not need a permit per our planning and zoning officials. Broken fence slats and debris cleaned up in that section there. And also the RV in question there. The property owner sent over a picture of the registration. I didn't see it attached to the vehicle, and per our code of ordinances, it does have to be attached to the vehicle. But he did send over proof that he has registration, and I just wanted to show that to put that in.
Okay.
And that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much, Special Magistrate.
Right. Sir, come on up to the podium, please. Are you Mr. Workman, or are you Mr. You're Mr. Workman. All right. And go ahead and present what you'd like for me to hear. You saw the photos and heard Mr. Cruz's testimony. What would you like to tell me?
I fixed everything.
That's
It's
what
all
it
done.
sounds like. Okay.
I got registration here.
Okay. Is there a license plate on the RV?
Yes, I sent a picture of,
Okay.
I thought I sent a picture of the plate on the RV. I know I sent him a picture of the plate. Let me see if I...
Okay. As long as you're telling me that you've got the plate on there, you understand
on
the
there.
rules.
Yeah.
The city doesn't want to have unlicensed vehicles that are parked on the property. That's the code.
And it is operable. I mean, I can get in it right now and drive it around the block if I need to.
Okay. What's your plan for the RV? Are you...
Restoration.
Okay.
I mean, it's just too hot right now.
Yeah.
So the project I got is just putting the new wood floor on the inside.
Yeah, it is Florida, though, so you understand that it's hot right now is like a 6-month thing.
I'm born in Clearwater, so you know.
I get that, okay. And I was born in LaPorte, Indiana, which is like the Snowbelt area. So, you know, I can have you go up there if you'd like to go up there, and you can work probably 11 months a year then, or 10 months a year. It won't be too hot up there, so. All right. Anything else you want to tell me? It sounds like you understand what the city's trying to do.
Yeah, I've been working.
You have neighbors?
There was some miscommunication, which, you know, I was told the first time I talked with Mr. Cruz that the only thing I needed was the plate for the vehicle, and then I was in compliance. Then when I checked to follow up prior to this, I was given a few other things, like the screen door and the debris, you know, but done.
Okay. I'll fine in favor of the city. The city's recommendation for fine and administrative costs?
Yeah. Lewis.
Mr. Cruz or Mr.
Mr. Cruz.
Yeah.
City's recommendation for
Recommendation
fine.
on a fine? I know you had asked for, if the vehicle were still there unlicensed, then I would certainly impose a fine of $250 starting today until you got it licensed. But it looks like Mr. Workman has gotten that part taken care of.
Yes.
All right. And any recommendation on a fine?
But to be honest, it looks like he came into compliance even prior to our hearing here. He was out of compliance for some time. As he had stated before, I don't remember that conversation initially. Our initial conversation was letting him know the things that needed to be done. Per that conversation was right in the beginning. I stated a couple things off the top of my head. I still needed to look over my pictures, my case files, go over the code, and send out the proper notice. The proper notice does state, as you can see there, the things that needed to be fixed. So he had ample time, and he was working, so I gave him, more than enough time to get things rectified.
So if I may, Louis, so he came into compliance when?
Just recently. Must have been probably just over this weekend. He just attached it to the vehicle because he text me a picture of the registration, which again, I couldn't tell because it wasn't affixed to the vehicle, which is part of our code. And I didn't see it attached to the vehicle, so technically I still couldn't say that he was in compliance at that point because I couldn't see the full registration.
Okay, so if I may do some math real quick?
Sure.
If you don't mind. So his compliance date initially was May 17th?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Workman, while Mr. McConnell's doing some math, is this your personal residence? You live there? Okay.
I inherited it from my father, and, it's been a mess.
Yeah, come on up to the podium so I can.
Respectfully, I do have a question as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, just, so you inherited,
So I inherited this property from my father, and he and his friend purchased it together. And they had an agreement where the friend, if one of them died, then the other one got to keep the property and manage it until they passed away, and then I got my share and his brother got his. So that's how we came into ownership. I inherited a mess.
are you living there? Is that
Yeah.
where you actually live?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
Since when?
About 2
Roughly.
years, about 2
Okay.
years.
And what's the date on that registration? When did you obtain the registration?
When did I get the registration? 9/1.
Okay. So that's 107 days out of compliance. We'll split in half. 50. The city will request 52 days times 250 plus admin costs.
What?
Okay.
That's the city's request.
No, I understand. Yeah, so the city's asking me to impose a pretty hefty fine. And
Right.
I'm doing some math here too, and I stopped at $2,500, and because it needs to be multiplied by another X factor to get to the final number. So I'm reluctant to impose a big fine on you. It did take some time, though, to get your attention, to get you to the point. And part of this is, it's just not the city, throwing the book at you. You have neighbors, people that,
I have Walgreens.
okay,
I have a business office next door to me that is awful.
yeah.
I have a gas station behind me that continues to blow their trash through my fence into my yard. So those are my neighbors. I'm
All right.
I'm a struggling business owner. I'm not one of these rich beach owners. My family's been on St. Pete Beach since 1963. I'm doing the best I can. I've got other issues that kind of get in the way as well, but
And while I can understand that, it literally takes 1 hour to go get a car registered.
well,
And you've been at the property for 2 years. I mean,
actually, the problem with that was they couldn't find my registration. And the reason, with the motorhome, there's a chassis, and then there's the actual motorhome. So I had the chassis, but the motorhome itself wasn't, it was complicated. So that was not just an hour. That was actually about 4 visits in order to resolve that. And none of those visits were less than 45 minutes to an hour, trying to identify how to actually get the title that I had.
So the other part of the allegations earlier were maintaining the yard, palm fronds removed, and don't store junk and debris.
Looking great.
Yeah, okay, you understand going forward. This is not a one-time situation.
No.
Because I've found you in violation of the city code, if it happens again, you'll be treated as a repeat offender, which means the city can ask for a fine of $500 a day. I know that special magistrates are usually fairly lenient the first time around, but the second time around, the $500 a day fine is pretty easy for special magistrates to impose. In this particular case, I understand the city's position where they would like to make sure property owners don't wait till the last minute, like in this situation. I'm not saying that you were trying to game the system, but it is neglectful, and it does harm the city as a whole. The fact that you have a Walgreens and a couple other commercial-type places nearby, some that may take care of the property, others that don't, it's still your obligation to take care of your property, irrespective of what your neighbors do. And if the city has cases against the neighbors, that's fine too. That's their choice. But I will find you in violation based on the photos that were presented and the evidence from Mr. Cruz, find you in violation of the cited sections. I'll impose a total fine of $250, complete, plus administrative fees. You're going to get a bill for the administrative fees, and it'll tell you by when you have to pay that. And if there are any future violations, you'll be deemed to be a repeat offender.
May I ask a point of clarity? What's the reasoning behind just 1 day of fines?
Yeah,
when he was out of compliance 107 days?
I understand that. I think in this particular case, I'm going to take into consideration the situation testified by Mr. Workman as far as just coming into ownership of the property. I understand. I think if I were to calculate that at 52 days times 20.
I'm not saying 52, but something more than 250 because.
I mean, even if it's.
I'm just asking for reasoning.
Yeah, 2,500 for 10 days, and if we went up to 50 days, it would be $7,500. I think I've got to impose fines that are reasonable, considering the circumstances, taking into account the situation, and I'm not condoning what Mr. Workman did as far as ignoring this problem for 107 days. But I think considering the circumstances, he understands what he's got to do going forward, and that if he does end up before a special magistrate in the future, he's going to have problems. So,
I'm just worried about a precedent.
Yeah, I understand. I think in this particular case, I'm not viewing it as a willful violation. It's more of just neglect, and I don't want to reward neglect, but you're still going to part with $250, and the administrative fees are not cheap. I mean, you're going to get a pretty hefty bill. Mr. Cruz wants to say something. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
As you can see here, this is Ryan. Could you go to the overhead for me, please? The overhead, please. Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. As you can see here, it actually exposed. So we're talking about neglect, and I understand where Mr. McConnell's coming from. It wasn't part of the violation, but now that he's removed those slats, it's actually exposed that his fence is, kind of in disrepair. It's not part of the violation here for today. But something I would like to note that there is other problem areas that may arise if he does not take care and maintain his property properly.
That is on my list of projects.
All right. So it sounds like you've got a long list. You've got to move it all up.
Like I said, it's that when I came in, the ceilings inside were falling down. I mean, it's been.
And again, it's inherited property. I get that. You've had it for 2 years,
Yeah.
and I know that you're not a big fan of working in the heat, but the reality is
I've been working in the heat.
You got to get these projects done.
Yeah.
And going forward, like I said, if I do see you again, that tells me that
Yeah, I
you
know.
get the message.
I got the message. I'm going to do absolutely everything I can to keep this coming together.
Yeah. All right. There's another gentleman.
Yeah.
Are you here for that case, sir? This case? No. Okay.
If I may, Mr. Manager, I'd just like to, if you could just include in the order that the reason it's $250 a day is specific to what you just said, just to
will.
give some reasoning, I'd
will.
appreciate that.
Yep. All right. So did you leave an email address?
Yes, I did.
All right. You'll get an email version of my order. Thank you, sir. All right. And sir, with the gray shirt on and the hat, what case is yours?
That's, this is Special Magistrate Pete Dewar for the City of St. Pete Beach Code Enforcement. Ms. Villette is not here.
Yeah.
And he indicated he's the husband to Ms. Villette, but the city is going to indicate that that property is non-compliant.
It is. It is compliant. And would you like for me to move forward with anything today, or are we just dismissing it from the call?
I think we would like to hear the case, correct?
Yes.
Please.
All right, this is case number 2023-0337, Paula Villette, 7309 Sunset Way, and Mr. Cruz, go ahead. Sir, go ahead. I heard who you are. You'll get a chance to come on up, and I think there might be somebody else who might want to be heard on this.
1 second, Special Magistrate. There we go. Thank you very much. Thank you, Special Magistrate. I'm Louis Cruz, representing the City of St. Pete Beach Code Enforcement. This is case number 2023-0337. Respondent is Paula Villette. Violation address 7309 Sunset Way. Violation description: the property is in violation of sections 4633 4B, 9865 1AB, and 9866 24 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of St. Pete Beach. Case summary: initial inspection is 5/26/2023. Notice of violation dated 6/22/2023. Notice of violation compliance date 7/6/2023. Notices of hearing dated and posted on the property 8/8/2023. These are true and accurate representations of what I have witnessed. This is the affidavit of posting at 7309 Sunset Way, August 8th, 2023. This is the concrete wall in question that is in disrepair. This is May 26th at 7309 Sunset Way. A couple different angles of the concrete wall in disrepair. A lot of cracks, major damage there, whether it be from settling or conditions. Obviously, it wasn't taken care of properly. A couple updated photos. Corrective action: fix and paint the concrete wall that is in disrepair. Property is not compliant per here, but it is compliant now. Recommended fine is $250 per day from 7/7 until compliant, plus administrative costs. Special Magistrate, I would like to enter in some evidence from today. Ryan, if you could go, thank you. This is the wall today. Painted and fixed. And it is now in compliance. Special Magistrate, as the previous case, this is another case that it wasn't fixed until literally a few days before our Special Magistrate hearing. So I just want to make a note of that. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you, Special Magistrate.
Sir, come on up and tell me who you are and what you'd like for me to hear.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Mike Champlin. I'm the fiance of Miss V. I'll call her V. Her name is actually French. It's pronounced V-A-A, so I'll just say V to make it simple for everyone. Has their different pronunciations.
And your last name is Champlin?
Champlin, yes, sir.
Champlin?
Correct.
Okay, and go ahead, sir.
I am the handyman, custodian of the property. I'm Paula's fiance, like I say. We've been together. I've been living with her here on the beach for 17 years now. I'm a native Floridian. I'm, like you guys, interested in keeping our state and our city looking good. So I fixed it, and I think Louis said that it's okay.
All right. And I think the issue is the gap between when you first were informed of the violation and getting it repaired recently. The reason for the delay.
That I couldn't tell you really. Like I say, I'm the handyman. I work the tools. Paula is on the bureaucratic business end of it, you know.
You did the work yourself on the, did you do the work yourself?
Yes, sir. I've been in construction for 50 years. I held an LLC for several years.
Okay. All right. I think there's somebody else here who'd like to be heard on this, sir. Is this the case? No,
No.
not that one either. Okay. All right.
So I couldn't understand.
Yep.
Do you actually live at the property?
No, sir, we live down the south end of the beach.
Okay. So you were hired to do the work?
Yes, sir.
So is this rental property then for
Yes.
Ms. V?
Yes.
It's a single-family home? Or what?
There are actually two small single-family homes on the property. It's zoned to RC. It's residential commercial.
Okay, 2 separate units, though. Is that, okay. All right. Anybody else? Anything else? Mr. Dewar?
This is Special Magistrate Pete Dewar on behalf of the city. I'm a little bit concerned that we're allowing testimony from a gentleman who indicates...
That's what I was trying
Yeah.
to figure out.
And he does not have a power of attorney. My concern is that we're asking him questions that he might be unable to answer, when in fact the respondent is not here to testify on our behalf.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Mr. Champlin, you understand what the concern is. You don't own the property. Your name's not on title, right? You're not an owner.
I have a credit card for Gulfview Rentals. You know,
Yeah.
I'm the authorized representative. I
Okay.
don't know what has to happen legally, technically.
I mean, technically, the way it works is that without the owner present, then I would take into consideration testimony from outside people, but I have to give it the weight that I think it deserves.
If I may, sir,
Sure.
Ms. Villa is a subcontractor to the Social Security Administration. She had very important business. She's in Washington, D.C. today.
Okay. All right.
I thought that she let Lewis know that, no? Oh, man.
All right. Mr. McConnell.
Sorry, a little miscommunication, sorry.
All right.
That's the line of questioning. I'm just worried that the record, you don't have the authority to be here, so I do appreciate you showing up. But I mean, we just granted a continuance an hour before this meeting, so a simple email, I mean, the city has a pretty good process of granting continuances. But again, based on the prior ruling, I don't really know what to request for fines, respectfully, Mr. Magistrate, but I do think people don't take our notice of violation seriously, and that's the problem that we find ourselves in. I believe the public sees it as funny money or monopoly money, and hopefully that changes sometime soon. So with that being said, the city rests its case.
Yeah, so usually the daily fine works when you've got a violation that's not been cured, and you need to impose some kind of incentive on the property owner to get the work done. And that's a lot of the cases that come before me, the violations still exist. So that's why I don't hesitate to impose a fine, whether it's $100 a day or $250 a day going forward, until the property is brought into compliance. And if the property owner chooses to take his or her time, that's at their own financial risk. So in cases like
There was
this
also,
one-
if I may, there was also the issue of a hurricane
I
a
mean,
week or so ago.
Okay, I mean, that usually buys you 3 or 4 days of downtime, but, you know,
We had our own property plus the rental property and a lot
I understand
lot
that.
of work.
I understand that, but, I mean, that's, you know, that doesn't justify 3 or 4 months of delay, though, either. So,
So I guess
I'm
just so
trying to
we
explain,
understand.
and again,
No, no,
Mr. McConnell's raising an important issue here for me, because I have the authority to impose a fine of $250 a day in cases like this. If I were to go back to when you first got the violation and the deadline they gave you then,
And what was that date, if I may ask?
July 6th.
July
I
6th, so,
see I see August 8th. Date of posting, August 8/8/2023.
The posting. So I think
Right.
what the magistrate is saying, and we'll correct our process, is don't wait. The moment they miss the compliance date, add it directly to the next agenda.
I think, you know, that it's hard for me when I see 3 or 4 months pass, and again, I know there are many reasons, whether it's workload on the part of the city staff or outside reasons, dealing with the property owner, that there are delays, but I think once I see compliance, I see, okay, there's an interest in bringing the property into compliance with the code, so I'm going to give the property owner that credit. I also look at what the property is being used for, and also if there is an opportunity for the property owner to come in. In this case, the property owner didn't come in. I'm going to take your word that you have some kind of relationship with this person. You have a 17-year courtship, it sounds like, or 15-year courtship. Okay, you know, I guess I'll treat you as a credible witness on this and give you the benefit of the doubt rather than asking me to do what the city, because there are some magistrates that wouldn't even allow you to testify to any of this. So I'd have nothing, so I'd have a default situation where nobody's here, and then I can just impose a fine of $250 a day going back to August 8th. or
I honestly
August 8th.
thought Paula had gotten that clear with
Yeah.
Lewis earlier.
So you need to have a conversation with her that these
Yeah.
types of notices are serious, and then going forward, you heard what I said to the previous person who was up here, that if there's a second visit with us, then at that point, you're treated as a repeat violator, and at that point, imposing a fine of $500 a day is real easy for me. So, all right, based on the information, I'll show that the property was in violation with the cited code provisions. It's now in compliance. I'll impose a fine of $250 a day plus administrative fees. You're going to get a bill, or Ms. V will get a bill for administrative costs, and she'll be required to pay that by the deadline that's imposed in that letter with the costs. Treat that deadline very seriously.
Yes, sir.
All right. That's it. All right. I think this gentleman is not a respondent. I think he's here on another.
He's here on the repeat case, but point of clarification on the case you just heard. What was your final determination, please? Special master.
Finding the property to be in violation, it was in violation of the 3 cited sections, imposing a fine of $250 total and payment of administrative fees.
Thank you.
All right, case number 2023-0485, Sofaland Investments LLC, 3511 Gulf Boulevard.
Good afternoon again. Special Magistrate Stewart Rivera on behalf of the City of St. Pete Beach Code Enforcement. This is case number 2023-0485, Sofaland Investment LLC. Violation address is 3511 Gulf Boulevard. Violation description, the property is in repeat violation of Section 46-331A of the Code of Ordinances for the City of St. Pete Beach. Initial inspection was 8/15/2023. Notice of repeat violation, 8/17/2023. Notice of hearing dated and posted, 8/22/2023. This is a true and accurate representation of what I witnessed. This is the affidavit of posting. This is the overgrown property. There's some pond fronds that were piled up over there in between the trees that still haven't been removed. In corrective action, the lot needs to be cut and maintained regularly. The property is not compliant. Recommended fine $500 a day from 8/18 until compliant, plus administrative costs. I have some photos from today that I want to show you, showing that the property still isn't compliant.
The vehicle that's parked in that photo?
I believe it's right on the property line. It's in the neighboring house.
Okay.
It looks like somebody was there and started to cut the property. I don't know when, but they did not finish. And this one's showing the palm fronds still stacked up in between the trees there. And that concludes my presentation.
All right, and,
Point of,
yeah, a repeat
we
of,
would like to include the prior order as well.
I don't think I've seen that yet, right? I don't see it in, is it in the agenda packet?
We're going to try to pull it up, sir.
I just need to make sure for the record that there was a previous order issued. I see a date of June 12th, 23. And I think that would have been Ms. Jello's case, because I was not here on the 12th. So, While we're looking for the order, I'm going to look at the gentleman in the blue shirt who's been patiently waiting. Sir, you wanted to talk about this?
If I may.
Please come on up.
Staff is going to go get the order.
That's fine.
The intro.
Yep.
Okay, my name is Ken Folsom. I live at 3508 Casablanca. I own the rental property at 3507 Gulf Boulevard. That's the neighbor
Okay,
to this
and if you
property.
give me the spelling of your last name, please.
Like the prison, Folsom. I'm also, and I've lived there for 30 years plus. I'm also the vice president of Don Star Property Owners Corporation. That's 300 plus property owners in Don Cesar Place. And it's an organization that's been around as long as the city's been incorporated, and we own the beach as well. Lots of M&N on the beach. I clean the neighborhood every 10 days or so with trash bags and pick stuff up. So that's why people generally call and complain to me about things like this. We have been getting a lot of calls on it. A lot of people are very concerned. The last cut that I remember, just filling you with some information, the last cut that I remember occurring was about 10 months ago, and I remember that distinctly because I was just prior to the hurricane before this last one. They came and they leveled it. They didn't do that good a job. Cut some of the roots of a nice mango tree. When the hurricane came, the mango tree fell over, up, and the roots busted the fence of my neighbor at 3510 Casablanca. They then came out and they took that away, repaired the fence, and I think that they may have mowed the property then, but that's the last one that I remember. There's a lot of rats, debris there. There's rusted pipes sticking out of the ground. I believe the sewer pipe's been compromised there as well. Mosquito control from Pinellas County, I know, has been out there at least on 2 occasions. I can tell you, my opinion, but I think it would be the opinion of most people, it's the worst maintained property in the subdivision. I've never met the owner. I have no idea who it is. It's extremely high because of neglect. They just won't do anything. On August 8th, I saw that they had a real estate agent sign there. It's a person with RE/MAX, Lisa Marie Gerard. I called her, and I have all the text messages to show you. I began texting her on August 6th about asking, or August 7th rather, to cut it, if she could help me cut it. I can show you the message. I've been keeping up with it. It's always been cordial. There's no problem. I mean, she's a nice person. She doesn't own the property. At a certain point, she said she was getting increasingly frustrated with the owner, I would suppose. She said she would pay to get it done. She then texted me the service that she contacted. That particular service, it's Lawn Starter. It looks to be an app or something, a gig type service. People do gigs. That sort of employment platform. I do know what happened about the mowing. A guy came out Saturday, and he tried to mow it with a conventional ride-on motor, or a stand-on grass. That's something you would see that a guy would have for your lawn. It's so high, it's not going to do it. He blew 2 belts, got angry, and left. This is even, myself and some other people have told the real estate agent and that, you got to invest a little bit of money into it with maybe a ride-on mower or something has that industrial capacity, because it's quite thick. So she also texted me today and said that they were going to come today, but then she texted me again and that service is not going to come today. So I don't know where that's at.
May I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Since you live in the neighborhood?
Yes, sir.
Would you say this property, or Mr. Magistrate, do you mind if I ask a question?
Please, go ahead.
Would you say that this is like a chronic issue? Like that never gets resolved?
I think
almost?
clearly
Okay.
that's what the evidence shows. Yeah, and again, I can show you all my text messages from August 8th. You know, I'm here to ask you, please, to in the strongest way possible, please try to motivate the property owner to get this done. You know, my home is not an English garden, and I don't think anybody, is requiring anything other than just, you know, community standards. And nobody's going out there and with a ruler seeing if it's 1 inch over. I mean, this is really high,
Yeah.
and it needs to be addressed. And if in any motivation that you can impose that would help the person to do that, I would appreciate it. I think it's rather telling that they haven't even, they weren't even compelled to show up.
I see the silt fence that is half up, half down, or more, actually, 90% down, 10% up. How long has that silt fence been there?
The what fence? Sir?
A silt fence, like that black tarp that,
Oh, that's like a year or so. That's all. I mean, yeah, that's after there used to be a triplex there. It was a pink triplex. It was an old home where I think the workers from the Don Cesar lived as they were building the Don. That's the legend anyhow. It was a very old building. After the demolition, they put that up, but that hasn't been maintained or anything, and it's just torn up, and you know, it doesn't seem like they care.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
We
So,
appreciate it.
all right.
so if any motivation you can provide.
Yep, so what we're doing now is, the city is alleging that Solfland LLC has been found in violation by another magistrate about 4 months ago for the same violation. And if that is the case, then I can elevate the fine from $250 a day to $500 a day. I'm willing to do that, but I need to make sure that order was actually entered on June 12th. Mr. Dewar, who runs his department, is going to tell me that that may be the case.
Ryan, please go to that screen. Thank you.
July 12th. Okay. For some reason, I thought I saw June 12th on something, but that's July. Okay. Based on the information presented by the city, I'll find that the property owner is in violation of the cited code provisions. I'll also find, based on the evidence submitted by the city, that a previous order for the same violation was entered on July 12th, 2023, and that the property owner is deemed to be a repeat offender, a repeat violator, meets the requirements of the state statute for me to elevate the fine to $500 a day. The city's request is for me to have the fine start as of August 18th, I believe. Is that correct?
I believe it was actually August 17th, and we do want the ability to go in and abate the property if we see fit.
Yeah, I have from 8/18, $500 a day from 8/18.
I'll grant that request then, so the order will read that fine of,
Respectfully, it's from the notice of violation date, which is August 17th.
For the repeat?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Because you actually inspected it on the 15th, which we could go back that far too, so.
so the 17th is
Thank you.
going to be the start date for the fine of $500 a day going forward as a repeat violator. I'll also include a provision that allows the city to go in and abate the nuisance. And Mr. Folsom, that does allow the city to go in and cut. Some cities are reluctant to do that because they may not get their money out of it for a long time, probably not until the property is sold. I see that, I was going to ask about this for sale sign. It looks relatively new, so it looks like the owners may have gotten the message they need to get this off their books. And, but I'll defer to the city as to whether the city cuts it or not. Mr. Folsom,
Thank you.
question or comment?
Yes, sir. I think, you know, just the fear from the, and thank you very much to the attorney, because the great fear in the neighborhood is the guy's just going to let it go and then, you know, try to get his money on the back end, you know, when he mows it. So any motivation, I think, when you could talk about abatement, we would appreciate that.
I'm guessing, and again, I'll let the city run its case the way it would, they want to run it, but I would probably start with a copy of the order being sent to the realtor and just saying the clock is ticking on this, and it's going to reduce the sale price by a lot of money. and that maybe the Realtor will make arrangements to have it cut. This is probably a $1,000, $2,000 mowing, would be my guess, at least. It's not going to be cheap, so, but the Realtor may want to do it just to help preserve her interest in the property, so we'll see if there's a result here that's favorable for the neighborhood. So that'll be the order. I don't know if you left your email address. If you did, I'll send you a copy of my order, so you can share it with your neighbors. Thank you. All right.
Special Magistrate Pete Durk, Code Enforcement Manager. Again, point of clarity on your order, August 17 through compliance,
Through compliance,
plus the abatement as is requested,
plus the abatement, plus the administrative fees.
plus administrative. Thank you.
Plus abatement if we,
Cost of abatement recoverable by the city, so I'll include that in the order. Yep. Okay. And I think we covered everything but the status. So I'll start with the first one. 2022-0035, 2906 Paso Grill. Status. Mr. Cruz.
Yes, thank you, Special Magistrate. This was a continuance per your request. I just want to show you some updated
Please.
photos. This is the back of 2906 Paso Grill Way. Looks like a little bit of work has been done here with the studs and a little bit of ripping out of the dirt, but not much is going on. At least the maintenance of the front is being maintained. No palm fronds on the ground, grass is cut. That is still the front of the house there.
And this photo was taken when?
This morning,
Okay.
or this afternoon, excuse me, 11:59.
Okay, I see it. Yep.
It looks like they took down some of the terracotta roofing, put a blue tarp up top, obviously to stop any rain from getting in. They do have about a 20, 30 yarder there with like palm fronds and
Yep.
probably other construction debris. And that is all my updated
All
photos
right.
for that.
City's request on this one? How do we leave it with this?
this is
I'd have to
2906, no, the lien's already been recorded, fines
Yes.
are running. You just put.
I was just curious what the outcome
There was a status
was.
hearing in the order, which is why we brought it forward.
Got it.
But nothing's changed, really.
Okay, I was more curiosity because I thought this was Mr., and I forgot his last name.
Abu Shev.
No, no. Dimitri,
Yeah.
no.
Abu Shev.
I was thinking the same thing. I don't think it's him.
2906?
Yeah, it's not a blue Chevy.
It is.
Yeah, I think that's, and I was just curious because it seemed like that he was going to make some progress and obviously didn't, so.
And Special Magistrate, he's been doing this for quite some time, and
Yeah.
we figured it would kind of turn out to this. It's unfortunate. The house has been like that for such a long time, and it is a
Yeah.
eyesore, so.
I think I put a status date on here because he had asked for me to hold off on the fines.
Yes.
And I think he was going to ask for me to reduce the fines today because he was going to be in compliance by today, but.
At least get back on track,
Okay.
basically what
All
it
right,
is.
I'll just treat this as a status, and I'm not going to take any further action, and no need to put it back on the future agendas unless somebody has something else for me to hear.
Thank you, Special
Next case, 2023-0137, Mr. Olson's case, 617 72nd Avenue demolition. Did you get it demolished?
Yes, thank you, Special Magistrate. Louis Cruz representing the City of St. Pete Beach Code Enforcement. As you can see in there, it is demolished, and they did get it sodded, so they are good to go. I also want to put into evidence, I corresponded with the property owner. I told him to call in. It looks like he did not call in. I told him that he should be here to hear the ruling. He said he's willing to pay whatever costs that were going to be coming his way due to the city asking for no fines at this time and administrative costs, and the property is now compliant.
All right, I think it was up today for imposition of fines.
Correct.
And administrative fees. So based on the city's representations, I'll affirm my previous order where I found the property owner to be in violation, show that he has complied with the order by having the structure demolished, and waive fines and require the payment of administrative fees as required by city code. Okay, 2023-0300, Raggi 411 88th Avenue, St. Pete Beach.
Yes, thank you, Special Magistrate. Here's some updated photos from this morning, or this afternoon, excuse me. There, it looks like the vehicles are still there, have not been removed. I did not get any confirmation as to the registration of these vehicles. Still look like there's debris. Obviously, we had the storm, but it looks like there's still debris and trash and other things that he's not maintaining and has not cleaned up at this time. Another updated photo, and this is the two trailers with one with a boat attached that I do not have any confirmation of any registration of those vessels either. And that is all my updated photos for now. Thank you, Special Magistrate.
And the request on the fine?
We would like to go back to what was asked previously in the order.
September 1st.
Yes.
Yeah, based on the city's presentation of photos, I'll show that the property has not been brought into compliance, that the nuisances and violations still exist, and that I will impose a fine of $250 a day beginning on September 1st, 2023, and running on a daily basis until full compliance. Also, imposition of administrative fees as per the city code. Okay.
Thank you, Special Magistrate.
And next case, which I believe is the last case, is Ritter, 2023-0284, 540 77th Avenue. Again, another carryover from the August 15th hearing. And Mr. Cruz, go ahead and tell me the status of this property.
Yes, thank you, Special Magistrate. These are some more updated photos for this property in question. This is the front of the property. It looks like it's been cleaned up quite a bit. As the property owner was leaving, which I will show next, she left quite a bit of debris, so this must be the new property owner of the property that did this cleanup.
So is it your testimony that the property's been sold?
Yes. I will show the new property appraiser that is now in public record. But it looks like they cleaned a lot of what she had left over when she had left the premises. These are the new property owners there. And the city would ask for this case to be closed unless Matthew has.
No.
Okay. Thank you, Special Magistrate.
Imposition of administrative costs on Ms. Ritter. What's your request on that?
What do you think, Matthew?
I'll enter an order authorizing the recovery of costs from her if you'd like. You'd have to track her down.
I think we need to start.
She said she moved. Oh, sorry.
Well, and we have to start over. Yeah, no. Case closed
All right.
for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? That's it. Thank you. Okay, and then next month, you're going to consolidate 10 a.m. I'll be out of town, and I think Ms. Ojala is going to handle it all. Back to 2 hearings in November then. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Are we